morning, guys. Yes, I said good morning. Little change. This morning I am going to prepare this evening's meal in advance because I've got my deliveries to do and then I've got a little meeting afterwards. So in case I feel not very much up to it when I get back, I thought I'll do it this morning. So on my tray here I have I'm going to do a curry. So I already have my onion fried in this pot here, and on the tray, as I said, I have got a little ginger, some garlic, my madras paste. Now I've had this in the fridge for quite some time and I thought it's time to use it up, my salt and pepper and a tin of tomatoes, and simply I'm going to put it all together. Oh, one thing I have forgotten, which I had prepared over here, forgot to put on the tray when I started, my chopped chicken. So I'll put the heat back on here, and into the onion I already have oil and the onion. I've put my salt and pepper and I've put my garlic. I'm now just going to put a little shake of ginger. Now when I say a shake, it probably would be about a teaspoon perhaps, depends on the size of the onion that you've used and how much you like ginger. If you don't like it at all, then you would leave it out. The onions are nice and soft, so to that I'm now going to add my chicken. I'm going to turn the heat up because we don't want to spend too much time on this. This is meant to be quite a quick dish. As you can see, I'm using my pot that can be on the stove as well as in the oven, which is going to save me time, because once it's all fried and it's ready, then it will just get put straight into the oven in time for 7 o'clock later on tonight. So once it's cooled, I'll put it in the fridge, in the pot as it is, and then it'll just come straight out of the fridge and straight into the oven, and there's no need to transfer it to another dish, and therefore you've got more washing up to do. So it's nice and easy. That's why I actually bought this particular pot, so that I didn't have to faff about with different dishes. So I'm just going to let that brown. What you want to do is you want the chicken to be turned this kind of white colour. You're not necessarily wanting it to be overly cooked, because it's going to cook back in the oven once you've got all the sauce in. So to that now I'm going to add, this is quite hot, this is a particularly hot, and it does say hot at the side and it gives you an indication there with the amount of chilies on the side. So I'm not going to put a lot of this in, I'm just going to put a small teaspoon. Again, depending on the strength of heat that you like, or depending on the heat of the actual madras tin that you've bought, you can adjust the amounts that you put in. You could, of course, like I did the other night with the pasta, you could buy just a jar of curry sauce, and you could buy a mild one, you could get korma, you could get Rogan Josh, you could get all sorts of different jars. But this is quite easy because I already got the madras paste, and the chopped tomatoes were a basic one, and they only cost me 29p. So it turns out to be quite a cheap dish if you do it this way. So I'm just going to stir that through and let it brown. And then a little bit more salt and pepper, I think, just to give it that extra flavour. And then the final thing to go in are the tinned tomatoes. I'm just going to pour them in. And in this other white dish that you have possibly noticed sitting on my tray is actually some water to add to the curry. So what I'm going to do, this dish here is hiding behind the seasoning, I'm going to pour a little into the tin, and the reason for that, some of you will already know, those of you that have been into my classes, there's quite a lot of tomatoes stuck round the side of the tin. And if I just give that a little swirl, it's going to allow the rest of the tomatoes to go into the water, and I'm not going to waste it. And then I'm just going to pour that little bit of water, the recipe, into the pot. The recipe that I have chosen to use said 250 millilitres of water. But again, I've only used, I think it's just one big chicken breast. It's only for the two of us. So I'm just cutting the recipe down to suit what I've got. And again, those of you that have been to me before will know now that you can gauge things just by your eye. It's not always imperative that you have to follow a recipe. You can use your eye, and you don't want the curry too thin, you don't want it too thick. It's just a nice sort of creamy texture that you want. So I will bring this over in a second just to let you have a look, but that is looking rather tasty. So if I can bring this over and tilt it ever so slightly so that you can see, perhaps that's just a little bit too close. There we are. Okay, so that'll just sit on there. It does actually have a lid, so I can stick the lid on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat off, but just leave it sitting on the stove with the rest of the heat to allow it to just finish off cooking a little bit. It doesn't matter if it's not cooked completely, because as I say, it's going to go into the oven. I'll probably put it in around about 160 degrees and just let it slowly cook through for about an hour. Chicken doesn't take that long, but if you don't have the oven too high, then it'll just cook slowly and it'll keep the chicken nice and moist. So there we have tonight's evening meal, a chicken curry. I'll probably serve that with rice. As you know, we have a rice issue in this house because my other half was very poorly with some rice that he'd had outside at an Indian restaurant many years ago. But as long as it comes out the microwave piping hot, then he'll be fine. And this is how I do my my rice when I don't have the Everhot cooker on, which is on all year, all the time for half the year. And what I will do is I use one of these dishes here, and doesn't matter however amount of rice I need. Normally it's about 2 tablespoons per portion, but you might want more than that. So all I do is pour my rice into this bowl, and I just cover the rice with some boiling hot water that I boil up from the kettle. Give it a little stir, put it into the microwave, full power for 6 minutes. When that's done, I take it out, give it another stir, add a little bit more water if I feel it's a bit too dried up, and then I put it back in for another 6 minutes. And usually it comes out absolutely perfect. So that's an idiot-proof way for me to do rice, because I was never very good at rice in my early days of cooking, and it was my Danish friend that I mentioned a few weeks ago in the video when I was doing talking about the red cabbage, and it was her that had mentioned to me about how to cook rice so it doesn't stick and it comes out perfectly, and I've done that ever since, and it has been fantastic. So there we have it. So guys, for tonight's challenge, obviously staying with the theme of what we've been making. So tonight, obviously, we're having a chicken curry. I'd like you to tell me your favourite curry and perhaps give me the recipe. If you have a favourite one that's maybe slightly different and you maybe make it from scratch, I'd like you to give me a recipe. And again, I might just pick one of those recipes to do for a video. And now that we can get out to the shops a little bit more frequently, then I could perhaps even buy in the ingredients specially if I don't have them already in the house. So, thank you again for tuning in, guys. It's always a pleasure, and I'll look forward to catching up with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.